people are so ingrained, deeply ingrained in their own deceit, that if you go out on a limb and say what's being done to Jacob Chansley, aka the QAnon shaman, you're supporting an actual terrorist. I'll see if I can get to the Tucker Carlson clip. I forget where I saw it. It was on Tucker Carlson. You had talking heads on propagandist MSM, suggesting that he should have been shot, and I guess in that sense justifying what many rightly believe to be the execution of Ashley Babbitt by that cop, point blank, shot in the neck. I said the day of, and I said since, when you're doing it, sometimes the consequences of the error are just infinitely disproportionate to the gravity of the error. People were doing very silly things and jumping through a broken window, whether or not she knew that politicians were behind that broken window. I mean, you're playing a very risky game where, even though the consequences are arguably criminal, but I think they probably should be criminal now. I might have gotten a little harder on that because as the facts came out, very little can justify shooting someone at point blank under those circumstances, even if you thought somehow they had something bad in their backpack. The cop was exonerated, says Ats player. He was hailed as a hero. Shooting someone within 3 feet, point blank, not carrying a weapon, not petite, but a woman who's of an average stature, point blank, as if that bullet going through couldn't have gotten one of the police officers behind Ashley Babbitt. Reckless is an understatement. Reckless. Now, whether or not it was a foreseeable risk and play stupid games type thing, sometimes, unfortunately, the prize you win is just exceedingly disproportionate to the game. But discharging a firearm, there were police behind Ashley Babbitt in close proximity. If the bullet had gone through Ashley and hit a police officer, they would have blamed it on the crowd, not on that cop. And anyhow, so some people were saying, talking heads on mainstream media saying, should have gotten shot. Jacob Angeli, when people break into the Capitol building, what is the building of the people? They should be shot. I mean, that's really awesome. Well, if you're hell-bent on bringing a sort of an authoritarian North Korea to America, why don't you just go live in North Korea? It'll be a lot easier for everyone. And let me pull up the Tucker Carlson. Let me pull up Tucker Carlson and see what we're going to start with. And then we're going to get to some fun Canadian stuff. Oh, yeah. Okay, so hold on. We did the Tucker Carlson Josh Hawley lie. Okay, so we'll take that out of the backdrop. And here we go. Let's start with this. Number one, Ian Miles Chong tweeted this. These are clips from Tucker Carlson, so hashtag fair use. Here.
Dangerous conspiracy theorist dressed in outlandish costume who led the violent insurrection to overthrow American democracy.
The guy that some talking heads on MSM, and hopefully I'll be able to get to that clip of the Tucker Carlson segment, suggesting he should be shot. Trespass, by the way, now, because even at worst, that's what it was. Trespass, execution. These are coming from the same people who want to prosecute the McCloskeys to the full extent of the law for not even doing a fraction of what they are suggesting should have been done under, analogous or comparable situations. These are the people who want to go after people who shoot people in their own homes, intruders. Prosecute them to the fullest extent of the law, punish them with the process. But under this case, they should have shot him. Okay.
For these crimes, Chansley was sentenced to nearly 4 years in prison,
41
far
months.
more time than many violent criminals now receive. What did Jacob Chansley do to receive this punishment?
He pleaded, people. So there's going to be that to deal with when you say he pleaded, he accepted a plea deal, and they sentenced him to 41 months in jail. 36. We're going to get to the sentence afterwards. 36 months probation afterwards. What did he do? This is a guy that some people were suggesting should have been summarily executed for trespassing. What did he do? I mean, by the way, the cops could have done that, as you'll see in a second, because there were cops always within proximity of him, leading him around. They could have done that. Would they have been exonerated then? What a tolerant left. Prison reform, except for January 6th defendants. Disarm and guns are bad, except summarily execute trespassers at worst.
To this day, there is dispute over how Chansley got into the Capitol building. But according to our review of the internal surveillance video...
Oh, that's Tucker Carlson's far-right extremist review. He's surely done something that makes these videos not to be believed with our own eyes.
It is very clear what happened once he got inside.
That's a police officer.
Virtually every moment of his time inside the Capitol was caught on tape.
It's surreal to watch this.
The tapes show that Capitol Police never stopped Jacob Chansley.
Not just that, by the way, not just that. Look who's in front here.
They helped him. They acted as his tour guides. Here's video of Chansley in the Senate chamber.
I think they just pushed
Capitol
on
police officers take him to multiple entrances and even try to open
I see. They tried to open the door and it was locked, so they're taking him somewhere else.
Doors for him. We counted at least 9 officers who were within touching distance of unarmed Jacob Chansley. Not one of them even tried to slow him down. Chansley understood that Capitol Police were his allies. Video shows him giving thanks for them in a prayer on the floor of the Senate.
Now, this is going to help AOC's argument that the Capitol Police were in on it. That wouldn't necessarily, even if that's true, by the way, that would not respond to the conviction then of what some people might argue is a form of entrapment. If they let Chansley in, walk him around, and then say, oh yeah, by the way, you enjoyed your tour? Off to jail for 41 months now. Listen to what Chansley said when he got hold of the mic. The insurrectionist.
Watch.
Thank you, Heavenly Father, for giving the inspiration needed to these police officers to allow us in this building.
Contrast the reality of what Jacob Chansley did in the Capitol building on January 6th.
Jacob Chansley also is a veteran. Some people don't know this. I mean, chat. I mean, I have to go to Rumble for this now. I mean, I think we all know this, correct? Like, we all know this. Yes, no, maybe so. I'll keep shouting it from the mountaintops, or I need to, or at least from the chair, so that people can see me. You just saw that video. This is footage that crybaby McCryface, Adam Kinzinger, the ghost of Kiev, Adam Kinzinger, and the daughter of a what everyone agrees was a war criminal, Dick Cheney. Liz Cheney is Dick Cheney's daughter. Yes, this is footage that they had in their possession for 2 years and didn't release to the public. Why? Well, when you read the criminal complaint, or is this the criminal complaint, or is this the the charges? Not the criminal complaint, but when you read the charges against Jacob Chansley, if you had seen that video, you might have some questions for the Department of Justice. Is this the Department of Justice? Yes. The Department of Justice. Department of Injustice, according to many. If you had seen that footage of Jacob Chansley being escorted through the Capitol building by police officers who were at times in front of him, leading him through the corridors, well, you might have a problem accepting at face value some of these charges. Civil disorder, maybe. Obstruction of an official proceeding, maybe. Entering and remaining in a restricted building. Remaining? Entering? If the door was opened and the cops were leading him around, I'd say, oh, well, when did anyone ask him to leave? Was he under any illusion that he had to leave? Okay, maybe. Disorderly and disruptive conduct in a restricted building. Maybe. Violent entry and disorderly conduct in a Capitol building. I would question that a little bit. Parading, demonstrating, or picketing in a Capitol building. And if what you're left with at the end of reading this, had we had access to the video footage that Dick Cheney's daughter and crybaby Adam Kinzinger had in their possession, we might have had questions. Maybe the public would not have tolerated some of these charges. Maybe then, if all that you have left is civil disorder, obstruction of an official proceeding, parading, demonstrating, and picketing in a Capitol building, which is exactly what they did with Kavanaugh, for God's sake. Sorry, for goodness sake. It's exactly what they did with Kavanaugh. None of them are sitting in jail rotting for 41 months. Maybe if we had seen that video we would have questioned some of these violent entry and disorderly conduct charges, and they would have been left with something that might have allowed us to say, if that dude gets 41 months for that, well, I might not be cool with that. That might not be an America that I want to live in. That might not be a police force that I think is doling out justice. That might not be a Department of Justice. That might be a politicized, weaponized, secret police, private police of a political institution. Plea agreement entered. Sentenced 17, 41 months in prison, followed by 36 months supervised release, restitution. Who cares about $2,000? Oh, we can get the plea agreement here. Check this out. Hold on. I read this a while back. I just wanted to highlight this because some people don't know this. How long is this? It was long. Your client understands. Oh, God. We'll get to some of the confidentiality agreements that some of these defendants had to sign in order to have access to the information in their files. Let me see here. Where did it say the charges? Agreement into sentencing, reservation of allocation, yada, yada, yada. Court not bound by this agreement, confidentiality waivers. Hold on a second. So I think it was at the front. Appeal rights. Oh, yeah. Your client agrees to waive, insofar as such waiver is permitted by law, the right to an appeal, the conviction in this case on any basis, including but not limited to that the statutes to which your client pleading are unconstitutional. The admitted conduct does not fall within the scope of the statutes. Your client understands that federal law, specifically 18 U.S.C. 3742, affords defendants the right to appeal. Hey, waive your right to appeal. Breach of agreement, yada, 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 complete agreement. I have read every page of this agreement and have discussed it with my attorney, Albert Watkins. Let me just go back up here for 1 second. I just want to see where they... Charges and statutory penalties. Your client agrees to plead guilty to count 2 in the indictment, charging your client with obstruction of an official proceeding in violation of 18 U.S.C. Your client understands that a violation of 18 U.S.C. carries a maximum sentence of 20 years in prison. He only got 41 months. He should be lucky. Count himself lucky. He only got a $2,000 fine. In addition, your client agrees to pay special assessment of $100 per felony. Whatever. Here, I'll give you all this. You can go read it yourselves afterwards, if you so choose. 41 months. And now we are, as a general public, for the first time, being allowed to see this video footage, which, oh yeah, it was real violent. And it might cause us to question whether or not this plea deal was made under duress. Dude had a crap lawyer, Arthur P148. I can't judge the attorneys, but they should not have. Although people are going to say he had a crap lawyer. Everyone saw the convictions that everybody but that one lucky dude who had a trial in front of a judge, they were getting convicted left, right, and center. Honor 234 says he's lucky he could get an attorney. Some people are going to say, yeah, well, maybe it wasn't luck that he got an attorney that allowed him to plead guilty, and be sentenced to 41 months in jail. We've seen it now. This is what that man is going to waste the better part of his active life for. I said maybe 3.5 years. He's a young man. It's not the better part. It's just 3 years. This is how you make criminals. This is not how you treat criminals. From the side of the aisle that wants criminal justice reform. Okay, let's see this. QAnon shaman. Here's another one.
They're there.
Here we go. Let's just see this one. Before we... Oh, this is the whole clip.
With that, here's the video. Doesn't answer every question from January 6th. Far from it.
Okay, we've seen this. Let's look at some of the highlights.
Oh, you'll understand why. Taken as a whole, the video record does not support the claim that January 6th was an insurrection. In fact, it demolishes that claim. And that's exactly why the Democratic Party and its allies in the media prevented you from seeing it. By controlling the images you were allowed.
We've seen the images that they want us to see. Look at this. Look at this.
The first thing you notice from viewing the full video record of
they're coming in through the windows. That's bad.
January 6th is just how many people entered the Capitol building that day. Hundreds and hundreds of people, possibly thousands, over the course of about 2 hours. The crowd was enormous. A small percentage of them were hooligans.
We've seen that. Let's go this way here. Hey, look at this.
Smile. They're not destroying the Capitol. They obviously revere the Capitol.
Although some people are going to say, Tucker, you're ignoring the window on the right. They broke the window and came through. I think I see broken glass there and an overturned bench. Don't downplay the insurrection, Tucker. Here, what did Trump have to say about this?
We will not let them silence your voices.
After the rally, they walked down Pennsylvania Avenue, where organizers had secured a federal permit to hold a legal rally on the grounds of the Capitol.
They secured a federal permit, and the FBI, who had already infiltrated the Proud Boys and the other one there, Proud Boys and Rhodes. Oh, geez. The chat will know. The FBI that had already infiltrated on the basis of seditious conspiracy to, militia groups, they were unaware. Capitol Police, understaffed because of COVID, they had secured federal permits. Everybody knew there was going to be a lot of people down there. It's my first day.
I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard.
Once
Insurrection. Peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard.
arrested that day was a Navy veteran from Arizona called Jacob Chansley, often referred to as the QAnon shaman.
The so-called QAnon shaman. QAnon shaman.
Someone named Q Shaman.
Jacob.
It's amazing, how they get the label, they run with it. We saw this part. They run with it, and then they use it for brainwashing, for actual media brainwashing. Here we go. This is it. That's what I was looking for. This guy.
Be killed.
Shoot him. Shoot him. Like, you burst into the United States, if he was dressed like bin Laden, would you have shot him?
Shoot him.
No, actually. You dumbass. No. Shoot him. I don't know who that person was. But my goodness, some of the wonderful things the tolerant left have said over the last 3 years. Glorious. Jimmy Kimmel getting up there saying that unvaccinated, sorry, Yeezy, Wheezy, whatever, you die. Don't treat the unvaccinated. Let them die in hospitals. Prioritize the vaccinated. Lock them out. Shut them down. But some of the things the tolerant left have said over the last 3 years, summary execution for what is at worst trespass. My goodness, it sounds like some things fascist dictators have said in the past. Oh, and Jake19625 says, Viva, don't be so willing to give up on the idea that the government agents were breaking windows. Oh, no. I can believe things and have not no legitimate basis to believe them, but I can understand that it's a belief and not something that I could easily confirm with a fact. I have absolutely no doubt that there were agents provocateurs in that crowd, that if it wasn't them doing the damage, it was them whipping people up and maybe starting the damage and then letting others get carried away, because people in groups do get carried away. Do I have any doubt in my mind that Ray Epps is, if not an agent, an asset, whatever? No doubt in my mind. Do I have a contract, an employment contract, or payment from FBI agents to him as an informant, as an asset? No. Like we had in the Governor Whitmer kidnapping plot. No, we don't have that. Anything, do I firmly believe that? Absolutely. That is my personal belief, substantiated with historical examples, current examples, and basic logic. Ray Epps was on FBI's most wanted list, was discreetly removed from it in the days after the event, is the one of two only people not indicted, despite having publicly admitted to having done worse than what many of the people out there were charged with and sentenced for. He admitted it. He was there. He afterwards said he whipped people up into a frenzy. He said he crossed over into restricted territory. Not only is he sitting out there free and, globetrotting around the country, he was never even charged. He was actually protected and defended by the bipartisan committee. You had Jamie Raskin calling him some poor schmuck, just some poor schmuck. But Jacob Chansley, a veteran, who, by the evidence that we've seen now, that they saw, that they knew, that they didn't disclose to us when they were sitting there vilifying this guy, QAnon shaman, being escorted through the Capitol. 41 months in jail. Ray Epps, scot-free, defended by the committee. And that other guy, scaffolding guy. Revolver did a great breakdown of this. Scaffolding guy, the other one up on the scaffolding, not charged. Amazing. It is amazing. They must be actual shapeshifters in order for them not to have ever been caught by the FBI that went and raided some old lady's house in Alaska. So yeah, I absolutely, thoroughly believe that there were agents provocateurs in the crowd who were instigating the violence, carrying out the violence, and who were never charged. We've seen the way it works. And if anybody thinks that that's crazy, well, my goodness, go study a little bit of current, recent history of America. I mean, it's undeniable. And then the media. Now I'm taking Digital Soldier 49 comment here. The media coup, running with it like a bunch of they're not blind idiots. They're not idiots. They know exactly what they're doing. What is Russell Brand? Russell Brand is quoting not Bill Hicks, George Carlin. There doesn't need to be conspiracy where there's convergence of interests. Convergence of interests is conspiracy. Conspiracy is not a dirty word. It means people planning together to do something. It has taken on a dirty term because intelligence wanted it to take on that dirty term, a discrediting connotation. Conspiracy theory means seeing something that's not actually there. Conspiracy, two or more people working together towards an end, oftentimes illicit. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a conspiracy. It would be a business. Unless that business is Pfizer, in which case it's a criminal business and it's conspiracy to defraud, allegedly. Key Tam, Brooke Jackson, Robert Barnes. The media was knowingly complicit, Digital Soldier 49. You are 1,000% right. Why? Is it an accident that, these Kinzingers, after they're done being kangaroo spokespeople for kangaroo committees, then go get signed on to CNN? Everybody knows that, right? CNN. Adam Kinzinger is now a spokesman. Hold on, let me go see what fella's up to here. I'll just pull up his bio because I don't want to make a mistake. Like Adam Kinzinger still hasn't corrected his Ghost of Kiev because he's an idiot. Husband, dad, pilot. That's right. Here we go. Let's see this. Is it an accident that after spouting the lies, they then join the lies? Look at this. Husband, dad, pilot, colonel in Air National Guard, CNN senior political commentator. How the hell does that work? He hasn't been there. I think he signed on a year ago. Senior. Am I older than Kinzinger? He's a senior, by the way, because that adds credibility. Adam Kinzinger age. 45. No, so he's a slightly older than me. Yes, they're all part. It is a package. It is actually fascism by definition. Government working with tech, working with media to maintain their positions of power, to control the narrative, to change the laws, to fortify elections. Fascism by definition. The convergence of government, media, and corporations to consolidate power and retain power. Fascism by definition. Sorry to be repetitive, but being repetitive is my job. My job is to be repetitive. It's one huge conspiracy, says somebody's watching. Somebody's watching me. Just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not watching you. So Greg Price. Oh, let's pull this one up. And then we're going to go to, well, you know what? Let's do Julie Kelly's post first. Talking about these defendants who were, they got the Kim Jong-un treatment. There's no, is it Kim Jong-il or Kim Jong-un? No, it's Kim Jong-un now. They got the Kim Jong-un treatment. Charged, detained for extended periods of time in pretrial detention in conditions that are inhumane and violate basic human rights. Anybody who says otherwise just is being blinded by partisan politics. I would not have tolerated this for and on behalf of the Summer of Love people. Maybe with the exception for the Molotov cocktail lawyers out of New York who, oh yeah, that's right, got less time than Jacob Chansley. Sorry, I didn't mean to scream. That's going to actually blow out people's ears. Molotov cocktail throwing lawyers. I'm going to have to see what they got just to make sure it was less than 41 months. Their plea deal, to which they accepted, was renegotiated by the prosecutor. Nothing to see there, people. It's totally normal. Julie Kelly, who is, great to follow on this. This is for the It's Public crowd. The surveillance video was designated highly sensitive material in March 2021. Defendants must adhere to strict rules before viewing any security video, and those clips are only relevant to their case, and they cannot be shared. Listen to this. Now, again, people, I tweeted out earlier that this is a clause I would expect to see in a merger and acquisition contract, trade secrets contract, employment contract, where you're learning confidential stuff about the business of another. I could see it there. I don't know if this is par for the course in criminal prosecution or criminal persecution. I only practiced civil law in Quebec, so I studied criminal law, but never practiced it. So take my opinion with a grain of salt and defer to those who actually have legal expertise in this area. But listen to this. Limitations on dissemination to third party. This is binding the accused. Neither the legal defense team nor defendant shall provide any discovery material produced by the government to any person not a party to this case, nor make any public disclosure, including disclosure to the media, of the same without the government's express written permission, except that defense counsel may provide discovery materials to those persons employed, retained, or otherwise consulted by defense counsel who are necessary to assist counsel of record in preparation for trial or other proceedings, including third-party vendors, and may authorize viewing of discovery materials by prospective witnesses for purposes of defending this action. The government may authorize in writing disclosure of discovery materials beyond that otherwise permitted by this order without further order by this court. I read that, and I read Pepsi's going to buy Coca-Cola, and they need to know that they can replicate the recipe. That would never happen. That's too stupid of an example. Some company wants to buy, Elon Musk wants to buy Twitter and wants to make sure that the accounts are legit and not bot accounts, and needs to see some algorithm stuff. And he might find stuff that's prejudicial to the company. And the company says, you can't go public with that. We're only showing it to you because you might be buying this. But you're the only one that has an interest in this. This is in the context of the government prosecuting citizens and then saying, whoa, defendant, well, if you want to see what we have, what we might have that might be exculpatory. I don't know how this isn't a Brady violation, but again, I don't have the expertise. If you want to see it, you got to sign off and say you're not going to show it to anybody else. You're not going to disclose it to the public, and limited access in any event. And we get to decide what you see and so on and so on. And now we find out the public. Court proceedings are supposed to be public as a rule. When it comes to protecting witnesses, yes, there are exceptions, and we can understand why. This is arrest, pretrial detainment in inhumane conditions, and basically prosecutions, and I'll call it persecutions, in the dark, the way you would expect to see in the country that is currently being criticized, Russia, and the hermit dictatorship of North Korea. This is it. It's not for the public to see. You want to see it? We'll let you know what you can see, and you can't tell anybody about it. Oh, and then, by the way, when you enter the plea deal, when the public hasn't seen the exculpatory evidence, and I'm not sure that the defendants did either, you agree not to appeal the decision and enjoy your 41 months in prison. Now, what did you learn? To quote Stewie. Somebody's watching me, says Brady violation, soft versus... Okay, I don't know. Carrie Ann... Well, hold on. You know what? I can, because I can do it, because of the plugin. Let's just see this here. Is it this one or is it this one? It's this one. Here we go. Carrie Ann JD, which I imagine stands for Juris Doctorate. There's more shocking videos coming out that I don't think were on Tucker. Well, let me just go ahead and screen grab that. I'll hold on. Okay, I'm gonna go get those, and then we got Uncle Kenny. Thank you. Now let me pull this out and see what that is. in real time, people. Let's do this here. Pop it into the, because this page doesn't exist, so that's not working. Okay, let me try the second one. No, so that first link, cut and paste, doesn't seem to be working. Let me try the second one. Okay, let me try the second one. We shall do this in the real time, yeah. The second one seems to be working. Okay, let's see this. Let's view. This is coming from Antonio Sabato Jr., actor. Oh, I know who that guy is. Okay. Let me bring this up. We shall watch together for the first time, yeah. Uncle Klaus would like to penetrate the video footage here. Okay, so let's see what we got here. New footage from January 6th shows cops calling protesters inside Capitol. Pretty cool. This is why they've been hiding all the footage. It was never an insurrection. And let's just see if this description is more accurate than, who was the first guy? I forget his name. Let's see if this is more honest.
He's behind you in this square right here. I think that's the plan right now.
Okay. Where's like the choke points? Where are the entries and exits?
Oh, this is okay. So this is a police officer's body cam. I'm sorry. I was trying to figure out if this was a protester's video, why it was never released. This looks like a one police officer instructing another one.
Hallway right here. This goes to the main entrance to the floor, but it's basically, there's the stairwell right here, dude. I mean, it's not gonna happen.
Why do they put the body cam half blocked by whatever that, like what? Okay, maybe this is shield and it's not typically there, but
It might be coming up behind you. They've been pretty cool once we encounter them, right?
Yeah, that's their MO.
But the thing is,
Right?
they've been pretty cool once we encountered them. Okay, that's interesting. They've been pretty cool once we encountered them. All right. Oh, Carrie Ann put up the other one here. Let me see if I can get this. Okay, let me see here. This is why I love live streams. Interactive, informative, educational. Okay, this one looks interesting. This looks interesting. I cannot vet any of this. Typically, I like to do a little bit of, verify, but these are coming from accounts which, up on the top, Kenny Spittler. Let's see this here. Who's Kenny Spittler? Truth seeker, Jesus Christ follower, proud dad, happily married, driven to this world to make driven to make this world a better place. Okay, we'll see what the footage is.
They set us the fuck up. That's what they did. They set us.
Hold on. Okay.
They set us the fuck up. That's what they did. They set up 64. Oh, absolutely. And then they asked y'all to come 2 hours later. They set us up. They needed everybody right away. Nah, right away. They set us the fuck up. So now we ain't got shit. We ain't got no motherfucking shit. They set us the fuck up. Check this motherfucker. Shit.
Now this is interesting. Let's assume it's provenance. All right, so they set us up. That doesn't mean that they set the protesters up. What that looks like is it's a cop saying they set up the cops to fail for whatever the reason, because they didn't have the backup. They didn't have what they needed in order to defend the Capitol. So that would not contradict the idea that it was there was violence and protesters who deserved to get arrested and yada. But that would support the idea, as is my prediction. In December 2022, I said, put out a tweet, what conspiracy theories are going to be confirmed true in 2023? Serious answers only. And my guess was, based on what I had already known, that January 6th was a setup, political setup. So it's what this guy's saying here is it looks like a setup in that these cops were set up to fail because they didn't have the required backups. There wasn't the required security there in the first place, which I also genuinely believe that this was allowed to happen so that it could then be politically weaponized for the purposes of exactly what the January 6th committee ended up weaponizing it for and doing with it. Political witch hunt, demonizing half of the country, trying to enact more laws to restrict people's mobility, to restrict people's freedom of speech, to restrict people's political expression. And that's exactly what they did with it. Why is the camera continuously zooming in and out? That's from backstage cam. I think it's because they were trying to do like keep the guy in frame for whatever reason. But who knows? That video was edited, so it has to be taken with a grain of salt. But the idea that it was a setup, that Nancy Pelosi or the mayor of Capitol, the governor, who is it? Whoever had the authority to call in the National Guard or ask for backup beforehand when they knew that this was going to happen, or when they knew that there were going to be hundreds of thousands of people there because they applied for federal permits, because the FBI had infiltrated the Proud Boys and, geez Louise, I still can't, Oath Keepers, thank goodness. They had infiltrated the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys for seditious conspiracy to insurrect. And yet somehow nobody thought it would be wise to have extra cops there the day of. No, they were understaffed because of COVID. Oh, remind me about the lie. One of the lies that we're going to get to. Carl, 12/31/2011, with the signing of the NDAA, Obama got rid of habeas corpus. They can detain us without trial indefinitely. Thanks, Obama. That's from Carl 212, a $5 Rumble rant. Oh, we haven't finished with the lies from that day, and the lies from the committee. Oh. Let me bring this one up. Was it Kinzinger who said it? No. Here it is, people.
And several police officers in the meantime.
But Brian Sicknick.
And several police.
The death of a police officer. He dreamed of being a Capitol police officer. Then he was violently beaten to death by a mob of pro-Trumpers. New York Times, 2 days after the event. Let's watch this. Brian Sicknick. And this lie, and it's a lie, and it's beyond a lie because it's exploitive of the death of a human, is still being repeated today. I forget the name of the Democrat lawmaker who repeated this lie just recently. If anybody knows the guy's name, I won't be able to remember it now. The police officer who was bludgeoned to death by the mob.
And several police officers in the meantime.
But Brian Sicknick should not be reduced to a prop for the political ambitions of the Democratic Party.
One thing I've learned now, and I'm saying this about the Democratic politicians and not people who consider themselves Democrats, they have no problem using people as props for their political agenda. John Fetterman being the most recent example. They have no problem. People are means to an end. People are tools. They would be violating one of Kant's categorical imperative, never to use other people as a means to your end. Democrat politicians, maybe Republicans are no better, I don't know, but I can't think of examples where they propped up someone who clearly needed treatment and help and not political exploitation in John Fetterman. I can't think of people who more proactively lied about an individual's death, disregarding what family wishes might have, been desired in terms of not politically exploiting a tragic death. They have no problem doing it, and they did it in spades with this.
He was a human being. The facts of his life matter, including how he died. To this day, media accounts describe Sicknick as someone who was, quote, slain on January 6th.
Wait until you see New York Times pulling an Adam Kinzinger with the ghost of Kyiv. We'll get to that.
The video we reviewed proves that is a lie.
Remember when they said he was bludgeoned to death with a fire extinguisher by the protesters? Everybody remembers this. And according to the National Review, even when they said this the day of or the day after, they knew or ought to have known it was a lie.
Here is surveillance footage of Sicknick walking in the Capitol after he was supposedly murdered by the mob outside. By all appearances, Sicknick is healthy and vigorous. He's wearing a helmet, so it's hard to imagine he was killed by a head injury.
I'll play devil's advocate. Maybe he put the helmet on after the head injury. Tucker, you don't know that. You're lying, Tucker. I'm joking. because we know that Sicknick died of several strokes the next day, which the examiner, the expert that even the Capitol Police had to acknowledge said was unrelated to the events of that day. They tried to tie it. First of all, they tried to say he was bludgeoned to death with a fire extinguisher, which never happened. And then they tried to say that his strokes the next day were the result of chemical spray that or the assault that he injured the day of.
Whatever happened to Brian Sicknick was very obviously not the result of violence he suffered at the entrance to the Capitol. This tape overturns the single most powerful and politically useful lie the Democrats have told us about January 6th. And it was indeed a lie. The January 6th committee knew perfectly well that Brian Sicknick was walking normally through the Capitol.
And several police officers.
I had the longer clip for that. They lied. They lied, by the way, and one of the more shocking possibilities that I subsequently not discovered, but someone had raised in the chat is he died of a stroke on January 6, 2021. And we now know what was going on at that time with COVID, with vaccine rollouts. We now know the statistics. I mean, in addition, no matter how cynical you are, you're still being naive, to quote Lily Tomlin, or no matter how cynical you are, it's tough to keep up. If I sit here and close my eyes and think for 1 second that it's actually possible, Sicknick might have died from a stroke resulting from the jibby jab. I mean, and people call me a cold-hearted bastard conspiracy theorist. La Presse in Montreal did that when I, asked if that CTV news reporter who had a medical emergency, despite being vaxxed to the max, hashtag, when was the last time she had a jab or a booster? I'm called an asshole, and I have, so be it. It never occurred to me that it could have been related. I didn't even put the jibby jab together with that event at the time because less was known then, at least to me. He died of a stroke, and everybody knows that is now a risk. Imagine that they lied about the death, covered up the cause of the actual death in order to politically weaponize the death and blame it on an event that had nothing to do with it. Could there be more evil in the world? There could, but only by degree and not by nature. But they ran that lie. If anybody in the chat knows the politician that I'm thinking of who repeated that lie, and then he was grilled by another lawmaker who says, I don't know if I can agree with your, are you suggesting Brian Sicknick was murdered? And if anybody remembers it, let me know. But they did run that lie. They ran that lie, and because liars double down when they get caught lying, because, Adam Kinzinger can't seem to bring himself to delete and correct that tweet. Like an error only becomes a mistake when you don't correct it. Is that the expression? I've made it that. An error only becomes a mistake when you fail to correct it. I've made a couple of errors. And not only do I correct it, but I try to make sure that the correction gets more airtime than the error, because I don't like making mistakes. I don't think it's fair if you make a mistake and don't actively go out of your way to try to correct the mistake. And that's what I do. An error only becomes a mistake when you refuse to correct it. Kinzinger made one with the ghost of Kyiv. New York Times, people. He dreamed of being a police officer, then was killed by a pro-Trump mob. The death of Brian Sicknick, a military veteran and experienced Capitol Police officer, they love the veterans when they're not locking them up, amplified the tragedy of Wednesday's riots and undermined President Trump's pro-law enforcement. Can you imagine the level of insidious evil that you would have to adhere to? Who wrote this article? To use the death for political purposes so that you could lie about it, exploit it, degrade the individual who just died so that you can use it to criticize Trump. Oh, but by the way, look at this little update. This is by Zolan Kano Youngs and Tracy Tully. Updated March 24, 2021. Still up on the internet, but behind a paywall, conveniently enough. Only people who pay for this shit can be misinformed. Update. New information. Now, in fairness, I don't think they had the report that confirmed his death was from natural causes, but I'm not sure, and I don't remember, and it doesn't really matter because everybody knew it was not from a fire extinguisher the day the article was originally published. New information has emerged regarding the death of the Capitol Police officer Brian Sicknick that questions the initial cause of his death provided by officials close to the Capitol Police. Let's just continue with the article. Oh, and by the way, do you know what this says right here? New information has emerged regarding the death that questions the initial cause of his death provided by officials close to the Capitol Police. Do you know what that means? It means that the New York Times did not do any due diligence, did not ask any questions. We don't even know who the hell they were listening to. They heard something they liked and they reprinted it unquestionably like a government lapdog and not like a government watchdog. I love that. The media, I love it because I also think I came up with it. The media today is acting like the government's lapdog and not the government's watchdog. They heard something they liked. They ran with it. It was bullshit. It was human exploitive bullshit that might actually have cost other people their lives if indeed the death resulted from something else and not from a fire extinguisher, which it didn't. They could have cost lives, exploited the death of an individual for political purposes, and it's still up there. There was something else I wanted to say about that. I can't remember. That's all I have to say about that now. I think that's it for... Is that it for... I think that's it, people. Let me go to the chat. Have I forgot anything that anybody was interested in as relates to the latest disclosures? They're lying to you, left, right, and center, day in and day out. And one has to operate on that basis when reading their lies. Oh, that's right. That's what I was going to say. They were told, so let's repeat it. And then we're not the ones who lied. We were just saying what we were told. But, you know, we're the New York Times. We don't have to verify anything. Like, my goodness, what I was going to say, what I put Stephanie DeGarry through before we went live, like when Stephanie DeGarry says, I'm going to come on and we're going to talk about what happened to my daughter, Maddie DeGarry. And I trust, but I verify. And I'm like, okay, what level of due diligence do I have to do so that I can't just be accused of ignorantly and naively repeating a statement that someone says? And Stephanie DeGarry, what she sent me to allow me to verify her story, corroborate what she said, and what I did, with Jeremy McKenzie. Like, it's nice that people say things, but I need to verify it. If I'm just going to repeat it and say that I haven't been able to verify it, well, boy, howdy, am I going to add that caveat, that qualifier, so that everybody knows it. When Jeremy McKenzie said I've been boycotted, I've been debanked by Scotiabank, I was like, okay, you got a good audio recording, and that's the best evidence we have right now. When you get the letter from the bank, can I see it? And I see it. Can I make sure that it's not something he typed up on his own? Yeah, and as much as I can, but it's very easy. There's only so much you can do. But what did New York Times do? Hey, I heard this guy got hit on the head with a fire extinguisher. Run with it. Trump's people did it. Run with it. Oh, okay, sorry. I heard. That's what I was told by Capitol. How did Capitol Police tell you that? If Brian Sicknick, as we've seen in that video, unless the timestamp on that video is wrong and Tucker Carlson made a mistake and that video was from before he got bludgeoned to death, which he didn't because he didn't, how could Capitol Police have said that if they knew that Sicknick was walking around after he was alleged to have been bludgeoned to death with a fire extinguisher by a group of pro-Trump supporters? Gunrun 91111 says everything is a psyop. That's where it ends up going, is that nobody knows what they can possibly believe anymore. And then you're like, and I understand it, like, not with the Maddie DeGarry, but with the nurse who collapsed after the first jab. Blank is, oh, for gosh sake, I hate when I blank like this. I can understand, like, some people say, like, well, corroborate. I want to see video. Okay, the video's a deep fake. It's a lookalike. I mean, I can understand at some point some people will never be satisfied. But maple syrup 1, 2, 3, can't trust anybody. You can't. Sometimes you can't even trust your own eyes. But you can do a little bit of homework. But sometimes it's so convenient not to do the homework. And you can just be a propagandist rag, like the New York Times, spouting the government's talking points like they've done throughout their history Operation Mockingbird never ended. It just became voluntary. Tiffany Dover. There you go. Thanks. Tiffany Dover. Like, yeah, I can appreciate like the arguments. Well, we could show you someone who's Tiffany Dover and people are going to say it's not her. We'll show you a video. You'll say it predated the incident. I can understand that. But, you know, when I listened to that podcast, Tiffany Dover is Dead by NBC, and they come to the conclusion based on the premise that she's alive and well. And after the 5-part miniseries of a podcast, they didn't see her. They heard someone who they thought was her, and there's some Pinterest account that's operating that they think is hers as evidence of life. Holy shit. Do people take us for stupid? I have no opinion on it because I don't know what to believe. All that I know is after having watched and listened to that 5-part miniseries podcast, Tiffany Dover is Dead, I now am more skeptical than I was before that podcast, but maybe that was the purpose of the podcast. Get people to jump on that story again so you can discredit them as being, oh, they're one of those people. Roseanne Boyland. So TJ MacD says Ashley Babbitt and Roseanne Boyland were killed. Roseanne Boyland, I still don't have enough information to I know what I think, and I can, raise those arguments that she allegedly died of a medical emergency. I think they chalked it up to a drug overdose. There's footage of her allegedly being beaten by police officers or stomped, trampled after she fell to the ground. But yeah. All right, that is officially everything on the latest of January 6th. Don't forget about them, and don't forget about it. It's an absolute injustice. It was a kangaroo committee from the beginning. These trials where they're convicting left, right, and center and giving the most insanely unjustifiable prison sentences. It should not be forgotten. It cannot be forgotten. I don't know what the solution is short of whoever runs as the next Republican candidate to promise a pardon for all nonviolent crimes related to January 6th. I don't know what the solution is. These people have pleaded guilty already. The Molotov cocktail lawyers, they make a motion or they have the prosecution, revise their plea deal to lower it after it's accepted. Nobody's even going to care about it. They'll ignore it. Jacob Chansley makes a motion to strike his plea deal. Holy crap. That'll meet some opposition. You'll get Lawrence Tribe. You'll get David French saying, oh, you can't do that. It's an absolute injustice. This was an insurrection. 41 months he's lucky to have gotten that. When the basketball player in Russia has a G in it, it has a G in it. What's her name? Basketball player arrested in Russia for smuggling the vapes. When she was given 9 years, I say that's a damn harsh sentence, but that's why I don't break crimes in countries that I don't trust the legal system in. In fact, I don't break the Brittany Griner. When she was arrested in Russia for having allegedly smuggled in THC vapes, sentenced to 9 years. Yes, that sentence is excessive, and I was vocal about it. But you go to a country that's run by an authoritarian Hitlerian tyrant, and you break the law. Well, don't be surprised when that's what you get. But if that's your expectation, and that's now the expectation of justice in DC, well, at least know then what you have allowed your country to become. You have allowed your country to become the tyrant that you think we need to start World War III to fight. Dope in Russia. Smart girl, that one, says Race 99. But I still, when Otto Warmbier, 13 years hard labor for stealing government paraphernalia from a hotel in North Korea. I mean, it goes without saying it's preposterous. But understand what you're supporting. If you say Brittany Griner, presidential, get her out of there. But Jacob Chansley, 41 months for whatever he was convicted of or pled guilty to. All right, and then that's just also to illustrate that I'm not a political opportunist. The guy who got sentenced to 12 years for having had a cell phone in jail because it was his third strike. I'm not going to remember his name right now. Brittany Griner, Otto Warmbier. Political orientation aside, I can acknowledge an unjust sentence when I hear one. Although some people are going to say smuggling drugs is exponentially worse than trespass, obstruction of proceedings. And my argument to that would be, 9 years is excessive. That's why don't go to Russia and break the law and expect clemency or leniency from a Hitlerian tyrant that by your own standards of Putin. Don't expect what the heck? My goodness. And if that's your expectation there, and that's the standard, well, then appreciate that the Biden Department of Justice, with the sentences they've handed down on some of these January 6ers, not much different and not much better. Maybe only by degree, but not by nature.